Once we've got the customer-client communication form all complete and filled out and signed by the representative, we now go to the task assessment checklist. This form is going to help us better understand what type of protective clothing we're going to need to wear to perform the task, what type of flash protection boundaries are limited approach boundaries and restricted and prohibited approach boundaries for the shock protection, and our gloves, what type of voltage rated gloves we're going to need to wear, voltage rated tools, and so on. This form can be a little bit confusing, but we'll talk about that in detail in just a second. Okay, so here is our task assessment checklist. Notice it says part 2 of 3. You begin by your project name. Once again, disregard. Project name, Oliver Technologies. Job number, BR549. Date, today's date, today's 0307-12. Okay, once again, gives you a warning, says, hey, we need the 4-digit year. So you come back in here, 0307-2012. Millage Company Supervisor, Charlie Murphy. And the project manager, Eddie Murphy. And then we come with the question. Is the equipment operated at more than 50 volts or is a shock hazard present? Chances are if you've gotten to this point, it's going to be a yes. So you click yes, and then it tells you in the form, if the answer is yes, proceed to question 2. If no, the rest of the form is not applicable, so see the electrical safety program. Next is, are arc flash labels affixed to indicate the hazard risk category level of PPE and the flash protection boundary? If yes, proceed to question 3. So if you have an arc flash label on your equipment, you can just disregard this question altogether. You don't need to worry about this stuff down here. You can go right over to question number 3. But let's say it doesn't have a label on it. So we're going to click no, and then if the answer to number 2 is no, determine the short circuit current available and clearing time with the overcurrent protected device directly upstream from the equipment to be worked on. If this is unavailable, call the safety department. So if it's unavailable, you're going to have to call the safety department. So if you don't know what this stuff is, call the safety department. Well, if you're going to call the safety department, I'm going to need the following things, and this comes straight out of our Energized Work policy, and it tells you right here, this is the data that you need to provide to me or to the safety department when asking the questions. I need to know the incoming voltage provided by the utility, 3-phase short circuit contribution, the reactive resistance ratio, pre-fault tolerances. Next, I need the transformer rating of the overcurrent upstream of the overcurrent protected device, which is directly upstream of the equipment. And here's the information I need from that transformer. We can continue on down. I need to know the cable and wiring from the transformer to the overcurrent protected device. Here are the things I need about that. I need to know the overcurrent protected device, manufacturer, type, description of the overcurrent protected device. Is it current limiting? If it's individually set, what is the setting? Here is a good note. Take a picture of this overcurrent protected device. And when you send in this information, send me that picture, because sometimes that picture will also help provide me some additional information when I try to look up what the time current curves are. Next is the equipment to be worked on. What is it? Is it a switchgear? Is it a panel board? Is it a motor control center? I need to know the bus voltage and the equipment type and if it's grounded. Are there any motor or generators downstream that could affect the safe operations that can contribute to this? And then that's all the information. That's a lot of information, I understand, but that's it. Also note that the asterisk on some of this stuff indicates that it's possible that I can determine appropriate protection levels without it. However, there could be limitations and it could possibly increase the level of classification, or it could increase it so much that you cannot work on it while it's energized. Okay, this is all in the energized work policy, which everybody should be familiar with if they're filling this out. Once that's done, chances are I will provide you with a label that you can use or the information to where you can proceed to fill out the rest of the form. So after that one, select the hazard risk category for the task. If it's given to you on the arc flash label, put it on here. If it's given to you by me when I do the calculations coming from up here, put it on there. If you don't know what it is, see the hazard risk category matrix. Well, that matrix looks like this. Stand by. So this is basically the hazard risk category matrix, and what we'll do is you go to the type of equipment and the voltage rating of the equipment, and then you go to the task. Easy way to remember this is VET. Think of voltage, then the equipment, and then the task. So let's say we're working on some switchgear. So we go to 600 volt class switchgear with power circuit breakers or fuse switches, and then we have our parameters. Maximum of 35,000 amp short circuit current available, maximum up to 30 cycle fault clearing time. Okay, potential, and it gives you your potential arc flash boundary with exposed energized conductors and circuit parts, and it tells you that's going to be 19 feet 5 inches. And then we look for our task. You look for your task down here, and this is going to give you your hazard risk category. Gives you a level 2 for work on control circuits with energized electrical conductor circuit parts greater than 120 volts exposed. This is category 2. Need voltage rated gloves and voltage rated tools. Let's say we were only going to do some troubleshooting. Well, work on energized electrical conductors and circuit parts, including voltage testing. Category 2, voltage rated gloves, voltage rated tools. All right, so we take that back. Remember that the maximum is 35,000 amp short circuit current available and maximum 30 cycle fault clearing time. So we put that in here. What is it for our equipment? Let's say our equipment is 32 KA and 20 cycle fault clearing time. All right, fantastic. That's what it is. It's a category 2 arc flash boundary per our hazard risk category matrix, 19 feet 5 inches. Is the fault energy level available at the location equal to or less than the parameters listed for each equipment type? Disregard if it's gathered from an arc flash label because they've already done the study. So the next thing you do is you come down here and say, well, yeah, it's less than 35, it's less than 30, so we're going to say, yes, it is equal to or less than. What happens if it's 40? Or what happens if it's 40? Well, that's over it, right? So then we click no. If the answer is yes, the table is applicable. If it's no, further investigation and calculations are required. Call the safety department. If you call the safety department because you've gotten here, please be prepared to provide the following. Same thing applies. Incoming voltage, transformer rating, cable, overcurrent protected device, the equipment to be worked on, or any motor, and also remember about the asterisks of that information. Okay? But for now, we're going to say it's 32 and 20. All right, so we're good. Determine the shock protection boundaries below. So for this, we're going to look at our approach boundaries table, and what we're working on is basically 480. So we come to 301 to 750. So our limited approach boundary, 99% of the time, unless you're working on power lines are going to be over in this area, exposed movable conductor. If we're working on a fixed circuit part, it's going to be in this area. So our limited approach boundary is right there. Our restricted approach boundary is right there. And our prohibited approach boundary is right there. So we got 3 foot 6 inches, 1 foot, and 1 inch. We just put that in there. 3 6, 1 foot, and 1 inch. Fantastic. Next we come up with what type of PPE is going to be needed for the task. Well, we're going to definitely need leather work shoes. We're going to need an arc-rated, or what are we going to use? Are we going to use an arc-rated arc flash suit with the jacket and the pants? We're going to use an arc-rated suit. We're going to use long sleeve shirts and arc-rated pants. We're going to use a coverall. For category 2, unless you have a uniform, chances are you're going to use a coverall. Go ahead. It's at least 8 calories per square centimeter because that's for 2. It's category 2. We're going to need an arc-rated hood sock. We need arc-rated gloves, arc-rated face shield, and we're going to need a hard hat. We're going to need safety glasses, and we're going to need hearing protection. Okay? You could put in here heavy-duty leather gloves, which are going to be over your arc-rated gloves. Fantastic. So signature of the person completing this form, name, print legibly, title, which I would hope that a CW1 would not be filling this out. So we're going to go ahead and say JW, signature, print it out, sign it. If you have a Adobe signature, you can sign it there, and then you're done. Date it, and fantastic, you can fill it out. And that is about it for the form. Okay, so that is the task assessment checklist. Hopefully it's a little bit clearer now. Try to run through it a couple of times, do a few test runs on whatever job site you're working on, give you a better understanding of how to fill out the form, what it's asking for. Take a look again at the Energized Work Policy. Hopefully that will answer a lot of your questions that you might have about how to go about filling out the forms. And we'll continue on with the rest of the forms in the next session. Thanks again. Have a safe day.